Folks, welcome back to the Crossing Swords podcast presented by Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel. I am Gatesy, joined today by the one, the only Mike_Bundt. Bunty, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Gatesy. Just good to talk after a win and not a 3-game losing streak.
Speaking of good to talk to, welcome Carson. This is probably the best two Carson Sabres podcasts in the world. Carson, how you feeling right now, a week into the Sabre season?
It could be feeling a lot better, to say the least. But again, I think last night bought the fan base, bought the team a little bit of time, specifically not only the victory, but the way that they did it, just commanding fashion, although it seemed a little sketchy at some point in times during the game. But, hey, could be worse. They're still 1-3. They're going to get some guys back here hopefully sooner rather than later, and then we'll have to see. It's still really early in the year, and there's still a lot of question marks, so I'm just fired up to see them down this next stretch.
A ton of question marks, and Bunty, 1 week ago today, basically to the minute, the puck was dropping on opening night. It feels like we've lived 7 lives since that first game. Tell me how you're feeling a week into the season. If we had this podcast yesterday, I'm sure conversation would be a little bit different than how it is tonight after the Sabres won 8-4 last night against the Senators. But tell me, what are your vibes after seeing the product on the ice and maybe some stuff to see in the future too?
Yeah, so obviously the first 3 games really, really, really ugly. And as in terms of optimism, absolutely none after that. So that was depressing, especially after like all the metrics said, oh, maybe they'll be in the wild card race till the end of the season. But one thing that is important to factor in, and I know Sabres fans don't want to hear this coming off of a 14-year playoff drought, they did have a quarter of their team injured. And that is going to make an impact. It's not like we were talking bottom line guys that were hurt. The whole offseason we were talking about needing, obviously, Owen Power and Kesselring to step up. And we haven't even seen Kesselring in the game yet.
No.
So Power was hurt. Then he was sick. Got off to a little bit of a slow start. Samuelson, like always, finds a way to get hurt less than 5 games into a season.
And apparently might be back on Saturday.
Not important, but he is part of their third pair, which does matter. And then you look at the offensive side. This is the part that's even more depressing now a couple games in. So many expectations for Josh Norris this year. I know he's injury prone. I know that he probably wasn't going to play the full season, but we saw so many glimpses of what he could be in the preseason and training camp. And to see him go down in game 1 on a non-contact related injury on a face-off, so disappointed. And in that point, yes, the Sabres are going to lose to the Rangers either way, but like that just sucked all the energy out. And Benson getting hit by a puck in the face in practice, missing the first 3 games. You were then seeing guys out of position in different lines, and there was so much wrong. Even Jordan Greenway being out to an extent impacts the fourth line. You have Krebs playing minutes with the first line, which they tried to do that to avoid messing with the second and third lines. Then they realized, Krebs, you should never be near Tage Thompson in any capacity. And then you mess with the second line, the third line. Then you have Danforth up to the second line, and guys are all playing in messed up areas that make no sense. You have AHL players playing games. You have Gertson playing his first NHL games in 3 years. And then people are like, why does this team suck? Well, they suck because they're equivalent of like a minor league hockey team. And people are like, well, the metrics, this, metrics, that. Well, the metrics weren't counting on like 5 minor leaguers playing with the team to open the season. Yeah. I bet you if you would have said, this is the team you have for the season, the metrics would have said like, that's a 73-point team, 74-point team. But the good news is you do have Zach Benson back. We saw the type of impact that makes. You will eventually get Kesselring back. You will eventually get some of these other guys back. And hopefully they don't destroy themselves before they get healthy and have a chance to actually show what maybe they're capable of.
For sure. I think injuries were huge. You talk about the advanced analytics. A lot of them have us around that 90-point range, that second wild card position. The full team, I think this team can be in the running till the very end. I don't know if they're good enough yet to take that next step. But again, injuries, we talked about it. The Kevin Adams 14-leg parlay that he had thrown together in the offseason it's already starting to slowly fall apart a little bit. Again, they also bring in a new, I believe, strength and conditioning coach. Everything like that seems to it hasn't made any impact yet. The guys who've been injured continue to be injured. Samuelsson dealing with an injury, shocker. Although I will say I thought he's played pretty decent in that third pair sheltered role when he's been healthy. Norris banged up in the first game on a non-contact injury, and then you have a bunch of guys dealing through injuries throughout training camp. Kulik, Tuck, Benson, you name it. Power. It's tough to see the wheels fall off a little bit before the season even starts. The season's not even close to being over. Don't get that twisted. I still think there's plenty of time left. By the 10-game mark, you start to have an idea of the team. 20-game mark, okay, it's for real. The only issue is like by the 20-game mark, I don't know if we're going to be having that 20-game conversation. They can't wait 20 games. So the win last night, I think, is huge. For a team that's morale seemed to be so low and the vibes just seemed dead. That was one thing that this team I thought took a lot of pride in when we started to have hope that they could turn it around and there wouldn't be another rebuild, was the vibes. They were always high. It seemed like the culture at times was better than the Eichel era maybe per se, or the rebuilds that we've been through previous. So for them to have the win last night, I think that brings a little bit of energy back to the room. I think that's an important win against a divisional opponent as well. Dylan Cousins makes his return back to Buffalo. And just how it was done and the way that they scored shorthanded, 3 power play goals. They defeated a lot of the narratives to a certain extent. I still think there's tons of question marks, but they said, hey, okay, like we can get this done. First win's a big one too. Again, like I said it before, the first 10 games are really important. When teams can get off to a hot start, you ride that momentum, and when you're always chasing, it makes things a lot more difficult. So the first 10 games are really important in my mind, but we'll have to see. I'd love to see some of these guys get healthy. Hopefully Samuelsson can be a go come Saturday. Benson can continue to recover from his face injury and continue to stay in the lineup. And then we'll have to see about a few other guys. I know Lukin in practice the other day, and Alex Lyon, what an absolute beauty so far. We'll get to him later. But overall, you just got to get healthy, and hopefully you can get your way through this maybe at 500. And when you come back healthy, you can at least, you're not out of it yet.
100%. And, the way the season started is suboptimal. And I think the vibe changed from games 3 to 4 for this, Sabres fandom and what you're seeing online is like the craziest 180 I've ever seen in my entire life. We went from, jerseys being thrown on the ice, Fire Adams chants, to an 8-4 victory on home ice. And it was just otherworldly. The change I felt watching the team, it was night and day difference, and understandable why people were upset. I was upset after, they go 0-3, but the reason that change happens was, at least I thought, 2 big reasons of the Sabres shortcomings got fixed. One, they actually had a fire under their ass when they were playing against the Senators. They looked totally different, and their special teams was converting. Mainly their power play went 3 for 3, like you said, Carson. Also, I'm pretty sure I found your burner. JB, you two are on like the same wavelength in terms of what you're saying right now, which is great to see. So be sure, if you're watching, comment along, be a part of the show. And yeah, gentlemen, what kind of was that change for you? Maybe it doesn't have to be a specific thing, but were you shocked at just how quickly the narrative of this team changed of, oh, this team is going to go 0-82, it feels like, to, okay, there's something here. They're getting healthy. Maybe we give them a little time to figure things out. But before I ask you guys, I was, happy at seeing this because we knew the wheels were going to fall off for this team at some point in the season. I was really interested to see how they would respond to that. It was bad last game for a stretch. They were taking penalties. The crowd was getting angry. There was just a ton of emotion that we've seen the Sabres team kind of fall apart. They found a way. McLeod scored a shorty. They get a 3-goal lead going into the third period and give up 2 goals in the first 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And I think we all thought the same thing, that this is it. We have the same old Sabres, but they scored like a minute after their timeout. They got back together. They got the floodgates going. So I guess long way, roundabout way, Bunty, how are you, after this game, feeling about the Sabres in terms of, is this kind of what you imagine now that you're seeing Benson back in the lineup, hopefully a Kessel ring soon, kind of that nature? And you're also seeing some guys maybe thrive with a new chance here.
Yeah, so Gatesy, not to be like the Debbie Downer here, I really don't.
You turn the dark side.
I don't really feel a vibe change after last night.
Okay.
I know you said that you did, so we might be interacting with different portions of Sabres Twitter. I still think most people believe that was just a sloppy but fun win over a below average hockey team missing
The
their
Senators
best
goalie was
player
not good.
with their backup goalie in net.
Yes.
Like that's what it really is. Like, let's be real. Brady Tkachuk
100%.
is out. They have a backup goalie in.
Yep.
The Sabres early on were getting outplayed. They get a lucky goal, which sometimes it can be all you need to really turn things around. And the key change in that game was really the response after allowing the second goal, getting the shorty, and then obviously Benson working his butt off, and then putting a few back to back, and then even the third period, the timeout and the response to really kind of calm things down and say, hey, let's get back at it. Here's my thought on what that win does. For a moment, it calms things down. The Sabres started 0-3 last year too. So let that and they did recover after an 0-3 start, and they eventually did get to that point where they were around wild card contention going into Thanksgiving. Now, the big difference between this team now and that team was that team had JJ Peterka still and Dylan Cousins, and there was some thought that they had a decent amount of goal scorers. While right now you don't have Cousins, you don't have Peterka, Kesselring is still out, so you're going to need some other players to step up overall. But I guess what was encouraging is I think Benson makes a huge impact on this team, and it's one of those things about Sabres Twitter that sometimes I don't like, is that we're so used to everything going wrong that sometimes we can't see things going right. And Benson is a player that realistically probably never should have been in the NHL at 18, 19 years old as a 13th overall pick. Yet he has had success. His advanced metrics are good, but his point totals haven't really been there yet. But when you track a lot of first-round picks, that's come into the league as teens, especially not top 10 picks, it normally does take them 2 to 3 seasons to really figure things out. So there's a lot of people that when you talk Sabres with, they'll be like, why do you have all this faith in this 20-year-old that hasn't done anything as far as point producing? And what we've said all offseason, you and me, Gatesy, was, well, we have faith in him because he does all the other things right. Like he could be a 29-point player, but you feel confident with him out on the ice because he's going to forecheck and he's going to play defensively responsible. And he obviously is good at setting people up. And he's done this on third lines and second lines. In his limited time on the first line with Kulich and Thompson, they had some chemistry. So what I'm encouraged about right now is that when you give a guy like Benson more opportunities with higher end finishers, if he continues to work hard, if he continues to give them opportunities, he's not going to be a 30-point guy in that role. He's going to climb steadily to being a 50 to a 60-point guy. And he has the potential to be way more than that. We're talking about a guy that played with Matt Savoy in juniors and was ahead of Matt Savoy while a year younger than him. Mm-hmm. So, and Sabres fans love Matt Savoy. They were upset when they got rid of him. So I really do think Benson has a chance to help Thompson and Zucker, whoever he's paired with. And that's the really big disappointment to me, is I really thought Norris and Thompson paired with Benson could be
beautiful,
something special and something intriguing. And unfortunately, we're not going to see that for at least 8 weeks. But the good news with Norris is when they're saying at least 8 weeks, it sounds like we can still have half a season. Yeah. And that means find a way to just squeak out these games, stay competitive. And really, when you have Benson in the lineup, what it helped do, which I think we all saw firsthand, was it solidified the second line, solidified the third line. And suddenly we saw guys like Jack Quinn produce. We saw Zucker produce. We saw McLeod produce. And when those guys are in their proper roles, that's going to let the rest of the team execute the way they need to. So while I'll say the vibes aren't great in Saberhood, and I don't think they're going to be great until the Sabres, for more than half a season, show the fan base that they're truly competitive. I think last night was much needed from okay, exhale. Like,
Stop the
we
bleeding a little bit.
aren't the worst team in the history of the NHL. And maybe in one way, it shows Lindy Ruff, maybe we do have to open things up. Maybe we have to go back to this fun style of game, because even though we don't want to blow 3-goal leads, fans would much rather see a 5-4 game than 2-1 or 3-1 in just boring hockey. So I think it was much needed, but they have to show that they can do it again and not have this be a one-off.
Gatesy, to answer your original question on the vibes, no, I'm not surprised that the fan base drastically changed. I think this is a classic. It's a cliche term, but to keep things, you can't listen to the outside noise. Because the outside noise, Sabres lose one game, things turn ugly. We've seen this ever since Granato they could never win 2 in a row. It seemed like under Granato for a certain stretch. They win one game and you lose the next one. It was an emotional roller coaster. And I think even to the certain extent now, I think a lot of the fans are similar. To address something, I don't think they played a bad game against Colorado in general.
It was the best one.
They got off to a really strong start. Of course, in absolute Sabre fashion, McKinnon scored the first goal at a rough time when you're pressuring the offensive zone, and then McKinnon comes in, backhand, beats Lyon. And then they responded well, too. Tage puts a nice goal in, and then after that, it just seemed a little bit downhill. But overall, I didn't think they played a terrible game against Colorado. They come back, and they drop 8 on Ottawa, which is an encouraging sign. And then if you look at the end of the Boston game, too, they showed some signs of life dating back to late last week, especially in the third period. So I think they've been slowly getting a little bit better. I think that is correlation to some guys getting back and also just getting yourself back into the season and the swing of things. It's a long year. It takes a toll on your body. But it's a roller coaster with the fan base, with how the vibes are. But overall, I thought they've been getting better. And Bundt, you brought up a good point of opening the game up. Last night, I don't know. It's just a question mark until I see it consistently. Is it a product of just how the game unfolded, or is it them strategically trying to open things up, having the D join the rush a little bit more? And is it a schematic strategic change? I don't know. I've seen at times last year where it seemed like they opened things up, and in the very next game they'd score 1 goal and register 23 shots. But we'll have to see. I don't know. It seemed like they play at their best when they take a few risks. They let some of their playmakers make some plays, and they were a great 5-on-5 team last year, one of the best, and then special teams was a disaster. But last night, again, power play, 3 power play goals. Start the year, the penalty kill was money. I know Ottawa scored a goal last night on the power play. But overall,
big stops, though, for the PK.
Yes, right. That's a big win last night. It buys a little bit of time. If you can just battle your way through this, get some guys back like Kesselring, Luukkonen, Norris eventually way down the line. Who knows what Danforth's up to right now with a little bit of an injury with him. But when you have
also Jordan Greenway.
Yes, Greenway as well. Greenway, we saw some flashes with him when he was healthy last year. So you can just battle through this, get yourself at 500, just still be in the race somewhat. I think that's no moral victories, but I think at least you're content with that.
Yeah, I think all fans really want to see is just this team in the fight when it matters most, and it's not, the season's over by December, over by January because you go on a long losing skid. If they can just keep their head above water for a while until Norris gets back, and then they can hopefully put together a bit of a run, and we can kind of see this team as we envisioned it all summer, as, we can kind of think of what this team can be. It's when you have Josh Norris on your first line healthy. You have Greenway back, solidifying your bottom 6. Kesselring's there to elevate Owen Power. You have UPL in the mix too, and hopefully he can take a step. And it's just an interesting dynamic that the Sabres are in. And I know this wasn't how we envisioned the first week of the season to go, but it gives me some sort of, maybe solace that we saw them at, I don't want to say rock bottom because there's a hell of a lot worse, we can get to and we've seen before. But they can get to a point where it seems like the world is ending. Every reporter is asking questions like, how do you stop this? We're getting jerseys thrown on the ice, like everything you can think of, tickets going for $8. And this team, they found a way to put up 8 and get the arena loud. Like, I don't know what you guys thought, if it was just because of maybe some new audio in the arena, but it just felt loud watching on TV against Ottawa. I felt the energy at home, and I feel like I haven't really, experienced that in a while. So that was really nice to see. But gentlemen, we are 7 days into the season. We've had 4 games to kind of watch. Some guys just, 1 or 2. But is there anyone you've seen so far that maybe you're a bit high on that? You expected them going the season, they've kind of exceeded expectations, or they're meeting those marks and they're a big part of this team moving forward. Bunty, if you want to get us going on who you're high on right now.
I mean, I've already mentioned him in the show, and I'm going to mention him a lot more. How can you not be high on Zach Benson?
4 points.
He's played 1 game, and he's leading the team in points with 4 assists. So Zach Benson, to me, is going to be the most important player on the Sabres this year in terms of will they have on-ice success or not. After the Norris injury, it's pivotal for him to step up and really play a big role on this team. They don't have enough top-end skill guys. Like, when you think about what the Sabres are right now, like Tage Thompson is a finisher. Obviously, Tuck can put the puck in the net, but he's more of a hard worker. Zucker has goal-scoring ability, but he's not really a flashy type of guy. He more does things. He has a good shot, gets in front, grinds. McLeod has some flash, but not the best finisher. So, like, you look at Benson, he's really one of the few guys on the team where you look at him and you're like, yeah, he's a grinder, but he has that high-end skill that they really don't have a ton of throughout the roster now that they've gotten rid of Peterka and Cousins and stuff like that. So Benson, I think, is the key to this team because and Doan is another big part of this too. Doan is another player I've been very impressed with because he does bring a physicality. He does play hard. He does, but he also has ability too. Like, he's not just a big man skating around looking to hit or forecheck. Like, he has the ability to set guys up. He has the ability to score some goals. So
3 assists last night.
Yeah, so those are 2 guys that I'm paying a lot of attention to, and I've been impressed with. And when you see what the Sabres are trying to become, those are the type of players that need to elevate the guys around them. And I still don't know how they're going to really overcome Norris being out for 8 weeks. But if Benson can set up Tage and can help out the top line or second line, wherever he's paired, that's going to be important to me because I feel like my biggest concern is, and this might sound weird, Thompson might be one of the top 5 goal scorers in the world. But I don't know if Tage Thompson is a well-rounded enough hockey player to the point where I trust him to carry the team on his shoulders and lead them to success. When I look at Tage, I see elite shot, some dangling ability, and he's a fun, exciting player. But I see a lot of turnovers. I see a lot of mistakes. I see a defensive liability. And with Benson in there, if they can build chemistry and rapport, Benson, I think, can go in the corner and get a puck in front for Tage to cash in. Benson, I think, can get back in a play and do what he needs. So Benson might never be the goal scorer that Tage Thompson is, but I think Benson might be the key guy to allow Thompson to be who he is while also kind of saving the Sabres' first line from maybe the bad parts of Thompson's game.
I agree. You brought up Josh Doan. He's my guy who I'm extremely high on right now. A guy in the trade that, we look at the Peterka trade and the initial response was, damn, we that's all we got back is Doan and Kesselring. It's not the players that, like, I guess we're disappointed in. It was just we thought we could have got more back. But overall, I thought Doan has been phenomenal through the first 4 games. He puts up the 3 points last night on 3 assists, and that's all fine and dandy. But I think it's what sometimes the box score doesn't show when it came to him. It seemed like he was making plays left and right, generating opportunities, specifically on the boards and laying the body around as well. So he's a guy who I think has got plenty of upside. I think somebody did comment too before our show what our realistic possibility for potential for his points are this year.
I think it was JB who commented that.
Yes. I'd say he's a guy that, shocker, I know that, probably my burner account, right?
Yeah, I would say that was you.
Anyway, I think I'd put him around 50 points max. I think he's a guy who can put up 50 points. He's still got plenty of offensive upside, a guy who's going to win you battles, just a little bit more physical and a bigger Zach Benson, I'd say. But it was nice to see him finally get into the assist department. Hopefully he can score the first goal with the team soon. I thought he's been really terrific, though. And then another guy who I'd like to see is Alex Lyon. He's 1-3, obviously gets all 4 games, but 4 games in 7 days, that's a tall task. And to put the numbers that he's put up, it's impressive. 305 goals allowed, 912 save percentage for a guy who is supposed to be our backup. I think we're going to live with how he's played any day of the week. Minus 0.6 goals saved as expected, but it was a little more of an open game last night. He still finished near expected goals. And he's kept us in every single game, plain and simple. I think there's been a few games where it could have ran away from us early in the season here, and he's kept it close. Defensively, I thought they've done a decent job in front of him as well, to pair with a good penalty kill. But the penalty kill, he's making saves. He's a big reason why the penalty kill's sharp right now. And Doan and Lyon, the few guys through the first 4 games that I can confidently say I'm pretty high on right now.
Yeah, you guys really hit the nail on the head on, I think, those big names and guys who I think play the game the right way too, of, Josh Doan, Zach Benson. They're always working. They might not get the points, but they got rewarded for it last night. And it's awesome to see. I appreciate we're getting a ton of comments in. AJ big online as well. And yeah, we'll get to the goalie situation in a minute. But a guy that I'm high on, it's kind of weird. I'll let you guys stick with Doan, Benson. Obviously, I'm big on them line as well. But Connor Timmins, a guy who was kind of an afterthought addition for this team, had to step up in a big way of playing top 4 minutes to start the year with all the injuries to the Sabres decor. And I thought he's looked very serviceable. Last night, him and Dahlin had a little bit of confusion on the 1 goal. But other than that, he has stepped in a big way, just been a solid part of this defense where they've been, serviceable. You don't really notice him too much, which is a good thing. He's had some big block shots, some big clears. And he stepped up in a way that really could have had a big detriment to this team, where you're down some of your big defensemen, you're down some scoring. You have to be really strong in your own end to have a chance in these games. And he has been. He's been a good addition, which I'm very happy for. So that's a good point here. And yeah, Victor, needed to find a deal center to play with Tage. I think that's kind of my big question mark right now, guys, is, Tage at center. We saw it's there, but we really saw how this line worked with Josh Norris in the preseason and how Tage looked last year on the wing. It just feels like the center core right now, if you look at it, if you have Thompson at 1C, you have McLeod, Kulik, and Krebs. I just feel like you're really hoping for a game like last night where everything goes in to really see that full potential play out. I don't know how you guys are feeling about the center core before we get in net, but do you like Tage as your center on the first line right now?
I mean, how many options do you have right now?
You don't have
exactly.
I'm fine with Thompson at center if that's what they need to do to get by in the short term. If they want to put Thompson on wing, I guess you can always mix it up. But as far as the center options, I already think Ryan McLeod has been playing 2 up as a second line center at times. I prefer him more as a third center. Kulik is not somebody I really want playing on the top line right now. End of the season, different scenario than beginning of the season. Don't want to say Kulik was in Ruff's doghouse, but definitely was addressed yesterday in practice that he does need to play a little bit better if he wants to continue to earn minutes. So there really is not there's really not a great answer for who should play center on the top line. And you know what? That's a fair, valid criticism of Kevin Adams. Let's be real. We talked about this going into the season. We said they need another top 6 forward, preferably a number 1 center to go along with Thompson. And yes, Norris looked good, and that looked like it was going to work out. But you still would have the question of who's going to be the number 2 center, with Norris being the number 1 center. So I think that is a very legitimate concern right now, and something that the Sabres didn't adequately address when they knew there was the potential of injury concerns and lack of depth if something was to happen.
think you answered it pretty perfectly. They don't have many options right now. Kulik's not helping in a whole lot of shape or form. McLeod, he looked shaky to start the year. He backed that up last night, though, when he played an incredible game last night. So it seems like he's always a guy that seems to start the year a little slow, too. I think he's a product of just the 1-3 start. But he's just an incredible skater, a guy who I have full confidence in going forward. To the second-line center, I think it's a little high for him, too. But we'll have to see. Tyson Kozak, I'm fine with on the fourth-line center, but that's all that. And you're not going to throw him any higher than that. But, yeah, with the Norris injury, that kind of derails a whole lot. It makes things a lot more difficult on you. So we'll have to see what they do, but I just don't think there's a whole lot of internal solutions to that center role right now. They're just going to have to kind of roll with it and hope it works for the best.
Yeah, that's kind of the position they're in. But I don't know if you guys have seen Rochester, but they played 2 games. Both Noah Ostlund and Isak Rosén have 3 points each. Is there like a point in the season where you would call up these young guys to maybe fill some gaps? Because right now the Sabres really focus their offseason in bringing in vets for this team. I'm trying to read what Victor said, but Paul Hamilton, watch your language, like same page. Like it's when do you call up these younger guys? It's kind of been the conversation. The offseason they went with more vets, but I think Sabermetrics put out this tweet, Kalanius right there. What's the difference between Yuri Kulik being your number 1 center and Noah Ostlund, Konstantinius, Isak Rosén not being able to be a first call-up, but also being too good to be in a trade package? So at what point were you going to call up, or do you think the Sabres are going to call up one of these guys?
So I'll say this. I think Ruff already addressed this a little bit. He said if there was time to call them up, it was going to be like kind of before Benson and some of these other guys return to the ice, because they had holes in the roster. And you can argue with the approach that they took, deciding to go with some experienced AHLers in favor of those instead of some of the young talented prospects. But I also think in the past, the Sabres have rushed up prospects, and sometimes it's been a detriment to them, and you've seen a lack of success. Like Isak Rosén, like that's a guy we've talked about for years. It's now to the point where like you don't even mention his name anymore because it just doesn't seem worthwhile, because for better or worse, it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to work out in Buffalo. Now, I do want to address the comment from Victor.
Yeah,
this is a Lindy Ruff MO. Like this is just kind of how Lindy Ruff does things. Is it over the top how he's handled Kulik? Probably a little bit, but it's also kind of sending a message. It's a different approach than what Don Granato used to do. So I'm not going to say one is right, one is wrong. It's obviously different philosophies. Ruff has had a lot of success in the past. I know players are changing. It's more so Granato was very soft on his young core, and at that time it helped them play freely, loose, and they had a lot of development in a very short period of time. The problem is when they asked them to get that next step of development, it was almost like a nonchalance from Quinn, from Cousins, Peterka, where no, I'm fine. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. And when you ask for that more out of them, it just never showed up. Now, maybe some of that was they didn't have the ability. Maybe some of it was they couldn't get dogged. They didn't respond to that. And Lindy, for better or worse, I believe deep down he would prefer less talented guys that buy into the system, into the culture, buy into what they're doing, than highly skilled people that are looking out for themselves. When Miroslav Shatan was with the Sabres in the late 90s, early 2000s, that guy had a 40-goal season. He would score 30+, and he would be on the bench like at times. Lindy would just be like, I don't care. Like, you don't do what I want, out of here.
We even saw last night, Bunty, on the 5-on-6 when they had the extra man, they have Tage Thompson on the ice. First off, to survive that, but you see him in the O-zone. He had an open chance at a net instead, which is a low percentage. Instead, found Yuri Kulik, who found it home. Like, I think that's a big thing too of a Lindy Ruff. Where yes, that's huge.
Like and that's a team first approach. Like that's a leader on the team showing a young guy, hey, I got your back. Like I want to help you out. Like let's get you that boost. Like yeah, it's an empty net goal in an 8-4 win, but like, this is going to help you out. This might get you on the right track. So, like, I love that from Thompson right there, because Thompson could have scored there, but it wasn't about him. It was about helping out a teammate. And, there's two ways of responding to this. There's one, you mope, you hang your head, and you're like, I'm better than that. You hate this. And there's going to be some young players that are like that. Kulich is 20 and 21, whatever, around that age. And he when he coming out, one of the first things everybody said was that he was very pro ready and that he could transition quickly. And he's hungry, and that's what he wants to show everybody what he's capable of. I think sometimes, a lot of times,
he was the one guy he said, yeah, he wants to be in the NHL.
Yeah, like Lindy's testing him. He's like, how badly do you want it? Show me. Like, show me you're willing to buy in to what I'm looking for. And I know it doesn't work on everybody, but this is the last part I'll say about it, about whether it's fair or not.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Sabres teams back in the 2000s and the late 90s that Lindy Ruff had that were not the most talented teams in the world. But they bought into what Lindy said and was trying to do, and they took off. And I know it's 2025 now, and maybe things that didn't work, that worked 20, 25 years ago, don't work anymore. But if we're going to be real, with the lack of blue chip talent on the team behind Thompson and Dahlin, there's really only one way for this team to really take that next step. And that's if the players on the team buy into what Ruff is telling them and then be able to execute it in and out, not thinking about it. And like, so far it's been ugly this season, but your season isn't over after 4 games. Like, they still have to find a way to buy in. And if they don't buy in, then they're messed up either way. And there's been some questions about responsiveness to this team. Like, do they believe in his message? Do they believe in his strategy? We don't know. But I think we're going to have a better answer after 20 to 25 games than we are after 4. Do I believe this is a playoff team? No. But if Kulich doesn't buy in, and I'm not saying he's not, that's when you go to Hellenius. That's when you go to Noah Ostlund, and you tell Kulich, you're not the only coveted prospect we have in our system right now. So buy in so we can see what you have, or we'll send you back to Rochester, and we got other people that we can give a chance to.
Those are great points. I think last night's a good tell that maybe the group does buy in. Ottawa scores 2 early goals in the third period. Past teams might have collapsed there. Matter of fact, I know they probably would have from last year. Lindy calls a timeout, gets the boys together. How do they respond? They continue to put pucks in the net. It's a good response. Plain and simple. That seems. I was proud of that growth last night. I was watching a movie for class at 10:30 somehow. But when I saw the notifications on Twitter, I'm like, oh, here we go again type of thing. But then I saw the timeout from Lindy, and then after that, it was a complete different situation. And it was a well-timed timeout. And I don't know if Granato would have done that. No shot at Granato, but it seemed like – anyway, that's a whole separate conversation. But I think when it comes to the prospect conversation, it's a great point. But I think when you talk about our guys buying in or how they're playing specifically, it's still early in the year. What you did last year no longer matters. A guy like Geertsen, I respect what they're trying to do with him. I just don't think he's an NHL caliber player. When you have Rempe out there on the opening night and Rempe kind of laughs at you, and then so does Zadorov the very next night on the opening shift when he puts Owen Power onto the bench. I just kind of think his role is a little there's not a whole lot there when he's playing 5 minutes a night. I think that 5 minutes a night could be turned into 9 minutes of night of somebody who's more productive from Rochester. And I think Josh Dunn, he's kind of impressed me. I think he's a guy who's a solid fourth liner, who's a guy who could play in the NHL. Maybe not your ideal guy right now, but he's shown to me that whole fourth line against Colorado, I thought played a productive game. They had a lot of good offensive zone shifts. But a guy with Hellenius and Ostlund and anybody down there that's rising the ranks for Rochester, I think they're close. I just think Roseanne, he's kind of a guy who, if it would have worked, it would have worked by now. I think it's kind of, you got to make a move with him. If you're not, I think his trade value consequently goes down, which it probably already is at this point. So we'll have to see with him. There's always some late bloomers. Hellenius, I think, could be a guy who has plenty of potential that we possibly see this year. Dan J, let's go, buddy.
Hey, thank you, Dan J.
That's awesome, man. And then Osland, the guy who got some time last year, didn't show to be too ready as it stood. So we'll have to see. But I personally would like to see one of those guys up here if we struggle within the next week for sure. So we'll have to see, though. If they show some success with the team they got, there's no reason to make a change. But if things start to falter, there's no reason why you shouldn't be bringing up one of your prospects from Rochester to see what they have. Because right now you got no other choice. Because we know a trade is highly unlikely with the current stance of the team.
Yeah,
and just want to shout out Dan J and AJ for the super chats and the contributions to our show. We're obviously trying to take this Sabres pod to the next level. We never ask for donations. All we ask for is if you're watching and you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to our channel, like it. We know there's not a lot of Sabres podcasts out there like there is Bills and stuff like that. But this is going to be a consistent Thursday show throughout the season. So we welcome everybody that tuned in, is commenting. We appreciate everybody that is contributing to the show. And
it's awesome.
Carson, love your points. And then one last thing I do want to add to the conversation.
Yeah.
We have seen firsthand where some of Lindy being tough on young players has consequences. We don't know 100% if that's what drove JJ Peterka to not wanting to resign in Buffalo, or if it was more contract negotiations. But there is risk when you're hard on young players, and you can alienate them. The other point too, because I saw in the comment that Lindy is not as tough on veterans. I think some of that is Lindy being a former NHL player. He trusts that if you've been in the league for 5, 6, 7 years, that you know how to conduct yourself as a pro, and he gives them the benefit of the doubt that he gives them the opportunity to turn around. Maybe they have discussions privately, but it's more of I call out young players in the media to try to know I'm on their ass and they need to turn around. Maybe a veteran, I talk to them one-on-one and we address it man-to-man. But you can argue that all day. Is it the right approach? Is it the right or wrong approach in 2025 to address the team this way? But we got to remember, it was just an offseason ago, 1.5 years ago, where the team basically was calling for a new head coach that would hold them accountable. So I did find it ironic and a little pot calling the kettle black that a year after asking for a coach to hold them accountable, there was reports of several players on the team that didn't like a coach that was calling them out for some of the things that they did. And if we're being real, some of the things that this team even still to this day does are things that should have already been coached out of them. Like I think about the fourth goal Ottawa scored where the puck is just slowly going into the zone. Alex Lyon has it hit his stick. And you have two defensemen go in the corner, and they get beat by a Senator who then leaves another guy right in front of the net for one-timer. I'm just thinking that moment, Lindy Ruff is probably like in his head internally, like, what the hell are you guys doing? So, like, there's still a lot of things that, like, they got to fix. But maybe with a young team, it's just repetition. You got to just constantly over and over and over and over again. And if the Sabres were older and they had a more veteran team and they had that experience, maybe that's something that Ruff wouldn't need to worry about as much. But I think as a coach with still a pretty young roster, you got to just hammer these points in, especially when it's some of their key players that still make these mistakes as well.
100%. Again, like, thank you, Dan, AJ. My head's all over the place after those super chats. Genuinely, guys, it means a lot. In terms of the show, too, before I get back to our points here, we do have them go up on Spotify right now. Working on getting them on Apple Podcasts, but Andy, just shoot me a DM. See the best way we can get that on Apple Podcasts, too. But again, appreciate the near 2,000 people stopping by on a Thursday. Watch us talk Sabres hockey, and I'm with you guys basically on all of this. It's I like what Lindy Ruff did with Yuri Kulik, because the one thing that just sticks in my mind the most about Yuri Kulik was his draft night. He was the third Sabre taken in the third round, and he was the one that said, I want to play in the NHL. I'm going to play in the NHL this upcoming season. And he has that confidence in himself. And I feel like just that internal will just to get to that next, place mentally, that, having him be in the quote unquote doghouse for one day of practice, then you put him on the fourth line and see what he does. I think it's going to be a really good thing for him. And also for those younger guys too, of, okay, you're putting up points in Rochester. That doesn't mean anything once you get to the NHL. You need to be able to play the game the right way. And you look across the NHL, every team has skill, but what separates teams from the bottom and the top is how they play all together. And the Sabres, if they can get over that hump of just, I think the mental part of where they're at, and they fully buy into these systems. And we saw it last night with a lot of puck luck and some piss poor goaltending, that they can find the back of the net, they can win a game, they can get, some energy in that arena. And yeah, Dan, you don't think Lindy's the problem? At least not one of the main ones. Yeah, he's won a bajillion games in his career. He's won here in Buffalo. And I am a believer of the way he's coaching this team after what we've seen with, Granato and Kruger and, the whole cast of characters we've seen in this franchise over the past, 2 decades, it feels like. That I think the way he coaches, if he can just modernize it a bit, where we saw last night of, okay, we're running and gunning and this is working, we're going to lay into that. I really liked that last night, that they stuck to it. They didn't just, go into a shell in the third period. Yeah, the start was bad, but they went back. They scored a goal on the rush from McLeod. They scored a goal on the rush with Quinn. They were able to kind of bring that back. And vibes are good right now, gentlemen. We had some super chats in where we're talking future of the team, but
and Lindy's not against that, by the way. Like,
no.
I don't know what. There's this narrative that Lindy doesn't like to play offensive hockey, and I know, like in the past, that was the case.
Yes.
Like the Drury Briere years were nothing but like goal scoring. Like it was nonstop goal scoring, and even his days in Dallas with Sagan, and then Jersey with Hughes. Like goal scoring wasn't their problem on Lindy Ruff teams. It was the goaltending that normally struggled. So I think Lindy is a smart enough coach to realize what he needs to do to turn the team around. I think the bigger question is, does he handle the relationships with the players the right way? Is he too overly patient with certain guys? And I'm not saying patient like on the ice during games. Like he'll change up lines like nothing. But like he's been patient with the assistant coaches. He's been patient with the power. Like he's been like, is that a product of not having enough talent and realizing like patience is the only realistic development approach? Or is it just an over-reliance on patience? So one thing that has been talked about lately, at least in the rumor mill, and we didn't really talk about it much on this show yet, it's that there's a belief internally or belief externally in the hockey media that if the Sabres did get off to a really, really ugly start, that it would be Kevin Adams that would get the hammer first.
Yeah.
And that Lindy would probably still be safe for the season. And there was also some talk that there's a belief that Lindy Ruff was a Terry Pegula hire. Yeah. So if that is the case, I don't think Terry Pegula wants to get rid of Lindy mid-season for a second time. And I would hope there's some type of mutual understanding between the two. Like, even if we're bad, let me part ways, like in an amicable manner. Yes. So I really think Lindy's in it for this full season either 100%. Way. Now, in terms of Adams, I think he could be in some jeopardy if things got ugly. And that's why this Ottawa game meant so much, because you go to 0-4, you get the Panthers coming in on Saturday. There really was an opportunity to tailspin. Now you win the game. If you can make that 2 in a row, you're to 2-3. And then you're like, okay, this was nerve-wracking. We got off to an ugly start, but now we have the ability to recover and get back into it. And we can address the wild media reports in a moment, but I've never seen another team in 0-3 history basically already be declared like season over. Like
the national media was
like Jeff Merrick's talking about the Sabres should start trading Tuck and like they should just embrace the rebuild. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like this is going to be a great season for the Sabres. I don't think it's going to even be necessarily a good season, but 0-3 is there's 79 games left. Like, let's hit the pause button for a second and breathe and give it to the end of October before we start making definitive proclamations about this team, especially since there is history that shows sometimes Lindy teams don't get out to the best starts and find their way mid-season and later on.
Yeah. Go ahead, Carson.
To put it into football terms, it's the opening kickoff was scored against the Bills, and all of a sudden the game's over. I think that's kind of like there's so much season left until the 15-20 game mark. I think that's really when you could start making some observations and judgments. But the outside media, Merrick, I know Elliot Friedman and 32 Thoughts had a podcast somewhat named after the Sabres. It's interesting stuff. It's crazy to see.
It's obnoxious. Like I get it. This team's
disrespectful a little bit too.
It is really disrespectful.
It's a punching bag.
And I get it. The Sabres are a punching bag, and this is what we would be thinking about like the Atlanta Thrashers back in the day or the Blue Jackets back in the day. But and I know some of it's deserved. Like 0-3 coming into an important season. But like no acknowledgement, like they're missing 5-6 players, and those type of losses are going to make an impact. And this is the part that kind of bothers me a little bit. The whole talk in the offseason is they have no goaltending, and they still have some scorers, but the goaltending is going to kill them. Like, and then through 4 games, Alex Lyon is standing on his on his
not the beat,
like whatever you want to say, stand whatever.
But
he's doing an excellent job. And the only real problem with the Sabres has been their goal scoring. Like everybody's acting like those first 3 games were blowouts. Like the Rangers game was, for all points, like it was a 2-0 game. Like they allowed a late goal with 5 minutes left. They knew it was over. They allowed another ugly goal, an empty net, 4-0. Like it was a 1-0 game for 55 minutes. The Bruins game was 2-1 with an empty net, and they score an empty net goal with 2 seconds left. Yeah, it's a 1-goal game late.
1-goal game.
Even Colorado was a 3-1 game. Like not a blowout by any means. Well, and this is what I think the players, why they get frustrated. And like I understand why we're frustrated. Like we should be frustrated. It's been 14 years. But like you're a player and you're like, we've lost like 3 games. Like 2 of them were like really close late in the third period. One of them, like we're playing a good Colorado team. McKinnon has a couple goals, and then you're telling us our season's over. Like, and even Tage Thompson was kind of saying it like the only way we're going to turn around is if we continue to believe in each other. Like, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to turn on each other and like just start like talking shit 3 games into a season? Like, and like I get that. That's what Sabres fans want to hear. Like they want to hear that the players are just as pissed off as the fans are. But like, how does that benefit the team that is actually trying to turn it around? Like Carson, like you played football in high school, and Gatesy, you played hockey in college, and I can't talk about anything about being on the team because I was a bowler and a golfer. So those are very individual based, which explains my personality very much. But like the point being that they have to focus on correcting the issues, continue battling, and they have to ignore the outside noise. Like the fans are going to be upset. That's like a given. Like the media is going to sensationalize everything and say like crazy shit's about to go down. That's a given. If I'm a Sabres player, I am screw anybody that is not one of the 24 players in our locker room.
100%.
Like, it's only about my teammates here, my coaches, and then anyone else, screw them. And I would try to embrace the major league mentality that had the Cleveland Indians in the early 90s where, you know what? Like everybody's against us. Let's prove everybody wrong. Like we're young, we're talented, we got potential. You know what? Let's hit lightning in a bottle.
100%. Quick roll through some comments. Colton Ellis, get a look. I don't know if they start him Saturday against the Panthers. That'd be kind of crazy. Like, welcome to the NHL. Here's the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. But I'd like him to at least get a shot, see what the Sabres have in him, because once UPL comes up, I don't know if the Sabres are going to keep 3 on their roster, and they'd have to put Ellis back on waivers, and, so just kind of be a weird stopgap. But, it's nothing I'm going to complain about because Alex Lyon just has been phenomenal for them. Big question from AJ. Bunty, I don't think you're throwing any.
You know how much those jerseys cost? Like, I still have my two Eichel
You never
jerseys.
know.
I'm not. I one time had a Pekka captain jersey, and I was so devastated when he got traded to the Islanders. Mike Pekka, by the way, for you youngins, he was a captain on the Sabres Stanley Cup runner-up team in the late 90s. Yes, the Sabres actually played for a championship back then. They went to 6 games, and they lost on what was called no goal. Look it up if you don't know.
I know this will make you feel old, but me and his son played together.
That is kind of crazy. But I unstitched the last name Pekka. I had my mom unstitch it. And I had an autograph by like 10 Sabres from that team. And I gave it away to my cousin who no longer talks to me. So I really regret all that. So I would never waste another nice jersey ever again. I'm glad I'm pumping some people up too. That's what I'm here for.
Bunty, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling the energy. I know we've kind of hopped around the show structure, but I don't know if we want to go on like I like that we're just kind of riffing right here, but we did talk about guys we're low on. We are, 4 games in, and not to, bring a damper on this great vibe we're feeling. Love all the comments, people commenting along. But is there anyone so far you've been watching in these 4 games that maybe haven't reached that expectation? I know we talked Kulik a bit, but I don't know, Bunty.
I'll give my 2 guys. Kulik is probably number 1, but if we were going to say disappointing so far, I know I think I also gave those to you. I don't know if you made a graphic for them or not.
Yeah.
My 2 disappointing players so far this season have been Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin. They are the 2 most talented players on the team. And then you look at their plus minus, and they're both, I think, -4 or -3. It's like, you guys had to carry the team. Like, and I know that's a tough ask, but you're talking about one guy in Dahlin that could be a Norris finalist, someone that could win that award. And then you have Thompson, who finished top 5 in goals in the entire NHL last year. Norris ain't coming back anytime soon. You're playing without some important players. And maybe they're pressing a little bit. Maybe they feel that burden. But when you are the 2 players that are expected to carry the team, and you are the 2 players, the entire fan base is like, we need to turn around so these guys want to stay here and be part of the future. You can't come out to start the season and then struggle as badly as they have. It's kind of like hypocritical to be like we need everybody else to step up, but then your 2 best players are like, doing nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, So like, that's the part that is kind of like disappointing through the 3 games, but it's also encouraging to me because I know Tage isn't going to struggle for long stretches going forward. I know Rasmus Dahlin will get his game back. So that's part of like, okay, they lost 3 games. They played poorly. Get back on track. And they get back on track. And the second tier guys do their thing and the third tier guys do their roles. Maybe they can get a couple wins and find a little bit of a rhythm. But yeah, I need the Stars to play like stars.
Definitely. I think I'm glad you brought up the second point in defense of them. I was listening to Expected Buffalo's podcast. Shout out Chad and Anthony today. But they brought up a good point, and I wholeheartedly agree with them when it comes to Dahlin and Tage. Kind of seems like every year through the first 5 to 10 games, it's okay, like what's kind of going on here? They're always slow starters to the year. With the preseason that both of them had, I was kind of hoping they'd hit the ground running, but no, that didn't quite happen. Tage he's a guy who sometimes I think feels he's got to do everything himself, which sometimes, he kind of does. But it just seems to this year they kind of forcing things a little bit. I think once we get going here in the year after the first 5-10 games, he'll get back to a normal self. I thought Dahlin was playing a terrible brand of hockey come the third period against Colorado, to be quite honest.
That was a bad turnover.
A brutal turnover in the second period, and then he just seemed like there was nothing to go for him and when it came to breaking the puck out in the third period. But again, these are guys that have full confidence in going forward, but a guy that I'm low on, and this really is no fault of his own, I guess you could say, like I even said, I think he's played well in that third pairing role. It's been Matthias Samuelsson. The best ability is availability, and this guy has not been very available. He just misses games. It's kind of a tough thing. He plays a physical brand of hockey, and when he's effective, it's because he's playing a physical brand of hockey. He's a big guy, 6'5". He great shutdown defender when he's on it, and you could tell when he's not playing his game, it's because I think he's battling through an injury or possibly afraid to re-injure himself, and he can't be as physical. So it's difficult to see because I know there was so much hope with him and being a shutdown, lockdown guy, but when you're only playing 40 to 60 games a year, that's very difficult to establish yourself. So, again, I thought he's played well through the 2 or 3 games that he did play. Hopefully he can get back. I'm glad it's just a short-term injury this time, but he's got to stay off the injured list. I think at some point in time, you got to reflect on yourself and see maybe if you can change your game a little bit, or if there's something that maybe you're doing wrong rehab-wise. But it's good to see Sanderson play. He's just got to stay healthy. That's the only reason why I'm a little low on him right now. I've always kind of been a fan of him, but he's just got to stay healthy.
He's got to stay healthy, and like JB's saying, like, he's kind of in the same boat as that Connor Timmins of those first couple of games. He was thrusted into a top 4 spot, something we talked about all of season. Like, he's going to shine because he's not going to be put in these big minute situations. He was put there, and he looked serviceable. Another question from JB up here, just who's replacing, who's out once Greenway comes back. Danforth got hurt last game blocking a shot. He's kind of on that list. Krebs, I'm a Krebs truth, or not a Krebs, a Kozak truther. I think Kozak's probably one of those first guys out there. But the Sabres have a plethora of fourth liners in their lineup right now, so I think they're going to kind of rotate that. Greenway will be a big part of this team. And Josh, good point on faceoff. Something we haven't brought up. Sabres got absolutely dog walked in the faceoff circle last game. It was like 64%. Ottawa won. You're missing Norris. Like, that's a huge loss for them. So it's interesting to see. Power physical after the whistle with Drew. AJ, that video, it went up crazy for us on Twitter. People loved Owen Power getting chippy, and it's been a complaint that people have had about his game is he hasn't had that edge. He looked like he had that last game. If he can keep that, you get Kessering back. This Sabres D is going to be a lot more stout, and the style of Sabres hockey is going to be one that's a lot more fun to watch, and there's going to be better about it. Victor, yeah, same thing. He's getting there. I think last game we saw it a bit more, and I like that. Love to see it. And yeah, Norris supposed to help with faceoffs. We saw in the preseason he was like 10 for 11 the one game. And yeah, McLeod was great last year. Need to see a bit more from him. And Dan J, yeah, Tage was selfless on that empty netter last night. And we talked about it a bit earlier. That's such a good thing to see of one, the Lindy Ruff style of selflessness hockey, of setting your teammates up, but also the way Kulich was. Yeah, you have in the back half to come. I just couldn't read. And that's what a leader does. That's something that gives me some promise. In terms of someone I'm down on, yeah, I mean, it wasn't the start we wanted for Kulich. I know Bunty, we talked preseason of who's someone we need to see a step in. I said Yuri Kulich because the Sabres needed that, strength in the middle 6. They haven't really had that. But I'm also going to say Bowen Byram. He was the guy that was a huge talk this offseason of, what's his future here in Buffalo? He was someone that, he wants to be a number 1 defenseman on a team. Right now he's playing with Rasmus Dahlin, someone that like Henry Okiharu looked incredible with, someone you put anyone in the lineup looked great with Rasmus Dahlin. And that pairing's just kind of been meh. Like, they need to really put on like their capes and get to that next level, because I think that's what we really expect out of a Rasmus Dahlin and Bowen Byram pairing. But yeah, gentlemen, I don't know if you agree with that. I feel like Byram's like a name I don't really hear at all.
We could be down on that handful of players right now. You can bring up Jack Quinn, but he just had 2 goals. Before that, Ryan McLeod could have been somebody after his first 3 games. Hell, you could have even said Jason Zucker, even with his 3 goals, because he had some lapses as well. The point being, after 1 game, we're not going to be as harsh on them because a lot of them had good performances against Ottawa. One player that Senators fans are down on right now? Dylan Cousins. He's a -7 through 4 games. So
he was a -3 last night.
Some things never change. You could say, did the Senators win that trade or did the Sabres win the trade? I don't know. Norris not playing is still better than Dylan Cousins being a -7 for the Senators. It sounds like a net equal right now, but we'll see down the line.
Yeah. Quick thing too. I know we talked a bit about Alex Lyon. If you guys had any more points on just how important it's been the way he's played to the Sabres limited success so far, but does it give you a bit of peace of mind not having to rely on UPL to come back sooner than maybe needed and play at an elevated level? If you have an Alex Lyon who has a 919 save percentage when the team is 0-3, what does that confidence in Alex Lyon maybe give to you so far this season?
Yeah, so Alex Lyon has been really solid. He's not been what I would call exceptional. Like, I'm not going to say he's playing incredible, but he's been good.
Exceeded my expectations.
And that's what all we can really ask for right now out of their goaltender situation after a year of just horrible net minding last year. This is what I'd say. I think it's too early to definitively say what I am thinking. But I do believe if Lyon continues to play at the level he is, we're going to have an interesting debate when UPL returns. Because Lyon right now is playing like a starting NHL goalie. Yeah. He's had 4 games. He has a .911 save percentage. I know he wasn't incredible against Ottawa, but this is the best goaltending the Sabres have had outside of the UPL year 2 years ago in quite a while. And last year we saw UPL struggled quite a bit. Devin Levi wasn't even worthy of being in the net at the NHL level. But then James Reimer at the end of the year didn't even light it up. But we saw what a difference it meant to the Sabres just to have quality goaltending. When the Sabres had quality goaltending, some of those games they got outplayed late last year turned into W's. And that's what this team needs. And Lyon, I feel like, was a big reason why they even had a chance in a few of their early games this season. And I don't think this is a bad thing, but I don't know if it's a good thing for UPL. Because what I believe UPL has played his best hockey when he knew he didn't have anyone in net that could challenge him for playing time. And outside of 2 years ago, most of UPL's career has been about his potential, but it hasn't been about the product on the ice, unfortunately. 2 years ago was great. And I kind of like this tweet, this message from Victor about Enroth vibes. And at one point, I was a huge believer in Enroth, and he never really fit into what I thought term. But I did believe in what Enroth brings to the table when he was younger. This is what I say about Lyon. If he can get you this type of play, he is worthy of being in a 50-50 split, worst case scenario. Where I would decide what percentage you're going to end up moving on will be determined when UPL returns to the lineup. Yeah. If UPL returns to the lineup and he also is putting up a 9-10 save percentage, maybe we can then attribute some of that to better defensive play in front of them, and that's just a product. And then that's best case scenario, because then you realize the team play is good enough to where you can kind of rotate your goalies and still get a consistent result. But if UPL comes back and he continues to be in the 890s and Lyon is at 910, that's going to be too big of a gap to say, hey, UPL, I know you're in year 2 of a 4-year contract extension, but we can't continue to give you those starts when you're allowing 2 more goals per 100 shots. You're talking about potentially 1 goal every other game. That could be the difference between winning, losing, going to overtime. And over the course of a season, that could be the difference in us contending or being out of it completely. So I think Lyon definitely has stepped up to the challenge. I hope he continues to do so. And I hope this ends up being a 50-50 split, because you can't tell me right now that UPL is a world above Lyon. And this is really what I thought we might see before the season. I thought that defensively might be a little bit improved to the point where we'd see better goaltending. And the last thing I'll say, I think it's Travis Yost of TSN. Analytics and the metrics. He was on Show Up in the Bulldog recently, and he didn't pick the Sabres to make the playoffs. But he talked about, well, if a few things go right, maybe they could surprise, but they need things to go right. But the part he was very kind of negative on, which kind of surprised me as an analytics metrics guy, was he was he's like, you could have a good defense, but if you have crap goaltending, you have crap goaltending. And Chad DeDemistis, maybe he disagrees, or maybe I'm misinterpreting what he's saying. He's kind of always said, you got a top 5, you have a bottom 5, and then you have a middle 15 to 20. And I just don't think in the Sabres situation that, like, if the defense is better, I think the goaltending is going to be better. And I know Edmonton has had goalie issues. There's a few other teams that have had goalie issues. Those are top-end teams where they're getting egregious goaltending. If you're getting that 10 to 20 level, I think the Sabres would be completely fine.
100%. I think the thing to keep in mind was Reimer towards the end of last year. It became Reimer's net to lose. I know UPL was dealing with a little bit of an injury towards the end of the season last year, but Reimer took that job over, and look at Reimer now. He failed to even make the Leafs on a PTO. So I think that kind of tells you a little bit about kind of their thought process and how they value UPL. They numerous times they've said UPL is their number one goalie, but go out and you sign Lyon. He's a veteran presence, good guy who's seen some success in the NHL before, but I just kind of want to pump the brakes a little bit with Lyon because we've seen before in past, he's kind of a streaky goalie. He's a guy who carried the Panthers, what seemed a few years ago, single-handedly to the playoffs. He had some moments with Detroit, but at the end of the day, he also had some moments where in big games he was benched. Specifically a few years ago when they came to Buffalo, I think we dropped 4 goals on them in the opening 12 minutes of play, and they weren't the nicest goals either. So he's a guy who's streaky, like a lot of goalies in all fairness to Lyon, but I'm not ready to give him the job yet. I'd like to see Luukkonen come back, get him a fair shake. But if you're going to have the hot hand in that, you better stay with him. And as far as Alex Lyon's going to take us right now, when UPL's out, I think you're right. Four games in seven days is an extremely difficult task. And it's quite taxing. So I was a little surprised Ellis didn't get a chance at his first career start to see what they had. You make the claim on him. And he might start Saturday. Who knows? But we'll have to see. So they got some back-to-backs coming up. I know Luukkonen's getting healthy here as now he's starting to practice. But you come back from now, 2 weeks from now, and you take a look at it, how different is the results? I think that'll give you your answer. But if it's even, you split them. That's perfect. It's exactly what you wanted. If Luukkonen's taken over and he's the hot hand, you ride with him. If Lyon's the hot hand, I think you have no room for error in this season, especially after a 1-3 start. There's a ton of year left. I've said that before, but you also got to be dotting your I's and crossing your T's here, and you got to have whoever gives you your best chance to win. It's no longer about development, especially in contract years for the coach and GM. You got to go with the hot hand.
Yeah, and like Victor's saying, like I don't know if you guys saw the video with like you have the sword here, but like the room absolutely loves him, and that's such a good sign. And we're talking about champagne problems right now too. I would absolutely love if our biggest talking point in a couple of weeks is, God, which one of our good goalies right now is going to play? So I guess we'll cross these bridges when we're there. Let's enjoy Line when we that he's playing while he has the net. In terms of Ellis, yeah, like we said, it'd be a tough, welcome to the NHL moment. You're playing the Panthers. But I think if the Sabres won one of their first 3 games, we would have saw him last night against the Senators. But the Sabres really needed a win. You know what you have in Lyon. He's played well. They're going to ride that. Now he has a couple days off. I imagine they go back to him playing his old team. But I guess we'll see.
Say one thing about Lyon too? This is what I do have a little bit of a UPL problem. I will be upfront with you. Like, UPL is still young. What is he, 26 now? Like, he's
26? Yeah, he's a 99. Yep.
So goalies take a while to develop. Guys like Ryan Miller weren't even really playing in the NHL significantly until that age. But this is my problem with UPL. He has done almost nothing throughout his entire professional career. Like, I'm looking at Alex Lyon's stats. And 2016-17, like when he's playing Lehigh Valley Phantoms, 912 save percentage in 47 games. 2018, 913 save percentage. 2019, 916 save percentage. The next year, 2020, Lehigh Valley, 913 save percentage. 2022, Chicago Wolves, 912 save percentage. 23 with Charlotte Checkers, 910 save percentage. Like, I'm not saying that playing in the American Hockey League is the same as playing in the NHL. And I understand, like, he's a veteran. He's not young. And, like, there's a lot of goalies that have impressive stats. My concern is more UPL goes to the American Hockey League, and he still puts up bad stats. Like, and early on in his career, It was more of like, okay, he's playing in the AHL. He just needs time. Like, it's actually easier when you're in the NHL because you have guys not screening you and you get cleaner shots. Like, that's what they often tell you when a prospect struggles in the American Hockey League or the ECHL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of times they'll be like, in the ECHL, they're not motivated. It's a lot of sloppy play. Like, you're going to get like weird bounces and like, but then like you'll see them go to the AHL and they get better, and then they go to NHL and they get better. Like UPL, and I know this was rehab, but like 23, he plays 9 games in Rochester, 898. 22, 35 games in Rochester, 900. 21, 14 games in Rochester, 888. Like you're talking about a guy, even 2020 in Rochester, 874 in 10 games. Then he comes to the pros. He plays 55 games last year, and he's an 887.
Mm-hmm.
He played 33 games in 2023, 892. Now, he had that 910 in 2024, yes, but that feels like an outlier.
Yeah.
When the guy has stunk or been below average for like 6 out of his 7 like professional seasons, mm-hmm, or like going back to 2021, like there's really not that much success. And I'm not blaming it all on him, Victor. Like, I do believe UPL is talented.
Just putting it all together.
My issue, and like I know playing with the Sabres is a tough situation. Like, they're not playing good defensively in front of you. They have a lot of odd man rushes. This is the part that makes it tough, though. So, like, we have advanced metrics now that show goals saved above expected. We can see high danger chances, but UPL doesn't do well in those categories either. Like the ones he's supposed to save, he doesn't save. And he's a big goalie, but he gets himself out of position routinely.
Yes.
And he's slow sometimes going cross sides. And this is one of those categories where, like, Alex Lyon is 32? He's a veteran goalie.
Yep.
He's experienced. He has more knowledge. He might not be as talented, but I think he has it better up here at this moment. And a lot of that might just be confidence. Yeah. Like what JB is saying. UPL 100% lacks it. So yes, even if you have the talent, if you lack it and you don't have faith in your teammates, because like this is what I think happens to UPL. He starts out normally pretty well. Then he faces a couple odd man rushes, a couple high danger chances, gives up some goals, will allow a 6-goal game, and then it's a down spiral from there. And what I think the Sabres need, and I don't know UPL personally, but you need to be headstrong as a goalie. You know that, Gatesy, more than anyone. And I don't know if UPL has gotten to that point yet. Not that he won't, but I'm to the point where, like, I don't need a rotation in that just to say, oh, you get 50%, you get 50%. I loved what you said, Carson. If Alex Lyon is hot,
yep,
start him for like 3 games in a row. Like I don't care. And if UPL has it going, give him the starts. Like, if that's what these goalies need, they need to see the coach confident in them. Like, ride the wave. Don't try to like appease goalies by saying like, oh, we're going to get you all your time. Like, no, your team stinks. I don't care about appeasing anybody in this room. Like, just do what is working and don't overthink it. And we'll see what UPL can develop. But I am not going to give UPL the benefit of the doubt. He will need to earn that ice time. And if Alex Lyon starts struggling, switch it up. But right now, the way Alex Lyon is playing, I'm riding it until it goes to crap.
Carson, how do you feel about UPL? Yeah.
He's a guy who he's weird. Like, I don't know how else to put it. He's a guy who
Gatesy or UPL.
Whoa.
But you look at him. I remember the year just before he broke out. Like, there was concerns of, well, he's got potential, but he hasn't had a good season since he was back with whoever he came up through before he went to the ECHL, Cincinnati. Before he went to Cincinnati, it was the stats just weren't there. He's not a guy who puts up a ton of stats, and he goes on an absolute run where even then we failed to provide run support 2 years ago, and comes back last year. It's just for him, it seems like injuries have also kind of stunted maybe some of his potential that he initially had. especially those hip injuries, and then comes back last year. It didn't seem 100% right with him. And then towards the end, Reimer takes the net. So he's not a guy who it's not like he's a superstar. So it's, you get 5 of those where he's guaranteed that starting spot when he comes back. I think it's just something that he's going to have to slowly mold his way back into. And I still think he's got some potential that's untapped. He's had the same goalie coach for the last 5 years. I don't know how Mike Bales has kind of gotten through all of this, but he has. So we'll have to see how it turns out. But like I said before, just ride the hot hand in a year like this. You need every point that matters, and you can't risk it just because we're paying somebody a little bit more money or somebody else. There can't be no politics in the situation. It's got to be something that's just straightforward, and you got to play your best guy at the best moment, regardless of any external factor. And to this point, UPL hasn't shown enough to me where it's when he comes back, oh, you're auto goalie 1. It's kind of got to be a game-by-game type of thing.
It's a pivotal year.
Yes.
He needs to step up, because if he doesn't, then Levi probably gets his final chance next year. And now you have Colton Ellis. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother goalie prospect in the room right now. So I really do think we're hitting a pivotal mark to where UPL needs to show it this year, and then Levi needs to show it in the next year or two.
Yes.
Or they start moving on from that being a thing, and some of those younger goalies in the ECHL and then juniors.
There's a lot of them
for those chances. So what once looked like a very intriguing goalie room of the future is quickly turning into a better show it or move on. So,
which is what we've been talking about for the whole Sabres lineup this year. Like with Yuri Kulik, you got to prove it. Like I'm in the same boat with UPL. Like he's someone where I watch him play when he's at his best. Like he is such a good fundamental goalie, but the second the wheels kind of fall off, they really fall off for him. It gets a little crazy. His best year, he was composed, under control. And I think this is something easily fixable. And where's the comment from Victor here? But yeah, and if it's something as simple as moving Victor out to Buffalo to hang out with UPL, boost the confidence, I'm all for that, because I feel like the Sabres, if they have a UPL who, can make some crazy backdoor saves, some big time saves, and make the timely save, like that's something that really plagued him as well as making a timely save. If they can get that out of him, that'll be huge. And gentlemen, I'm just going to go through a couple more comments here. We are almost an hour and a half in. Thank you to the near 3,000 people who tune in tonight, commenting along. Appreciate all of it. And yeah, clearing the puck out. The Sabres have been better net front. I still can't get over the quote or the report of Granato's system where they just didn't tell anyone to type in front of the net. So it seems like a lifetime ago. And yeah, Ellis has really good AHL numbers. So I'm excited to see what he looks like here in Buffalo, how his first start will go, when that will happen. I think you did say that Montreal game. We'll see. And yeah, JB, I think that's kind of just the question mark, is how is UPL going to look in this new defensive system? He will come back too. I don't know when Kesselring is, but if he can come back around that time, that'll really even help him out of just getting as much help he can in front of the net. And pre-workout in front of the pods. I wish this is just the love of the game, Matt. We're here. And even Victor, 2 a.m. God bless you. 3,000 people because of you. Agreed. You have been a trooper. I couldn't imagine watching, Sabres 82 games at 2, 3, 4 a.m. at night. You're a trooper, fan of the year, of course. But gentlemen, do you have any kind of final thoughts? Folks at home, do you have any questions for us you want to answer as we start to wrap things up? But Bunty, this has been the longest week of my life, all of our lives. I don't know how the Sabres have played 38 seasons in this 1 week, but any kind of closing thoughts before we wrap things up?
Yeah, closing thoughts. You had a good win against Ottawa.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's one game, and it means nothing if you don't rebound and keep it going. So you take on a Florida team in a matinee game, 1:00 Saturday, that doesn't have Barkov. They don't have Tkachuk. It's the second team in a row that's missing a Tkachuk. That makes a difference. Like Tkachuk's, they run American hockey. So that's a game the Sabres have to win. The Panthers, they started 3-0. The last 2 games have been ugly losses. So this is not the same Florida team. If you don't have Barkov, you don't have Tkachuk, you have vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. So I know they still have Sam Reinhart. I know they still have a lot of top-end guys. But this is the time you want to play the Panthers. So find a way to get a 2-game winning streak. After that, you play the Canadiens and the Red Wings. Those are teams that you're probably going to be competing with if you want to be in the wild card conversation. The Canadiens owned the Sabres last year, but you know what? I know they're off to a 3-1 start. Montreal is not a high-end team. Like, I would still bet on them to fall apart at some point this season. Maybe they take that next step and they end up safely making it. But I think there's a few games up ahead that will tell me a lot about the Sabres team. If you can find a way to get 2 of the next 3, get to 3 and 4, and then possibly split the Maple Leafs games, you can be hovering around 500 heading into Halloween and just manage going forward. Right now, my thought process is this. Norris is out for 8 weeks. You're not going to get him back until mid-December at the earliest. Find a way to not have your season end before New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
We saw it last year bottom out right after Thanksgiving. Find a way to just battle. I know this team is injured. I know they're missing a lot of guys. I know they don't have a lot of blue chip talent, but you still have Tage Thompson. You still have Alex Tuck. You have a young talent in Benson. You still have Zucker. You have McLeod. You have Doan who's stepping up. Like, there's enough forward talent to where you can score goals. It should not be battling to get 1 goal a game or 2 goals. This should be a team that can still be a top 15 to 20 goal scoring team, even with regression. Defensively, I'm just waiting to see Kesselring come back and see how that looks with power. That's going to make a big difference. And if Lyon, and then UPL when he comes back, can just keep this consistent play, maybe they can shock some people, stay in it for a little bit, and then try to get hot later in the season. But just don't have a repeat of last year where you ended your season 2.5 months in. And that's why everybody's talking after 3 games like it's over. Like, I just hope this team just ignores the fan base, ignores the outside noise, just focus on getting better, buy into what Lindy's preaching, and then just maybe you can find yourself in the race in the second half of the year.
I'm right there with you. I don't think a voice matters, including ours, I guess, even outside those 24 guys in that locker room. It's got to be you got to be close at this time, because right now there's a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of adversity just with how the team is. There's already been adversity. You're going to have to battle through that. And the culture, this is when culture is tested. So you kind of stole my thunder here. I was going to go off the teams and the games going forward, but it's all right. Panthers, they're beat down. They're battling injuries just like we are. If you're going to beat the Panthers, the time is now. You got to take advantage of that opportunity. Bare minimum, I think you got to get a point out of that. And Canadiens, Red Wings, those are teams that I view them as in the same tier as we are. I know the Canadiens, they made the playoffs last year, but I still feel, and along with the fact they own us, but I still feel that's a team that's very beatable. And the Red Wings, they are literally just us, just glorified as an original 8 team. So to me, this is a big week ahead of us. I think this is going to be very telling. If you fall, let's say you lose 2 of these and maybe there's 1 overtime loss or something in there, I still don't rule completely out a major change happening, possibly in management. But let's not think like that. Let's not AJ Sabalski this. I think we're going to be a little bit more positive. I think the door is possibly open here. This is going to be a great week ahead of us, I hope. Again, they showed some flashes. Just get healthy, like we talked about all night long. You battle your way till December. Just keep yourself in it. You got a lot to play for right now. It's early in the year. We still have a lot of time to figure out really who this team is. So just battle. Keep yourself in as long as possible, and you never know what can happen.
100%. And before I do my final thoughts, a little plug for Trainwreck today. Don't crash out online. Crash out on their line. The crash out line, call or text 716-226-6263. Hey, if you have Sabres complaints, life complaints, send them a text, send them a call. It's anonymous. Be a part of the show. They are live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon on the Trainwreck Sports and Heard of Buffalo YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, they are there. And now my final thoughts. Gentlemen, you're both pay the bills. You've focus, you talk about the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to, speak some language of yours right now. 82 games in the NHL season, 17 for the Bills. Average NHL game is almost a quarter of football. The Sabres, really bad their first 3 games, basically 3 quarters, until they turned it on and won game 4. Buffalo Bills, game 1, week 1, same song and dance. They were absolutely dead. Everyone left the stadium by the time the fourth quarter was going on. They found a way, won that game. It's a long season for the Sabres. We are 4 games in. We have, absolute anarchy in the fandom at the moment. But I think we have, a fun season ahead. I know JB said the first 10 minutes of the Florida game, exactly that. I know Sabermetrics always tweets, every time the Sabres have the worst game you could ever imagine, they play Columbus the next night. They have a fun game where people are bought back in. They don't play again for 3.5 years. That's how it feels right now. But they're back on Saturday. Dan J, thank you for stopping in. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, AJ, for the super chat. And thank you to the over 3,200 people that decided to stop by tonight to watch us talk about the 1-3 Buffalo Sabres. Gentlemen, we have some big things ahead for this show, for our Sabres coverage this year. I'm excited to share as the season goes on. And gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. We have some fun stuff ahead. The Sabres team, I want to say they're a little frisky at times. We can see some fun things. Excited to see what we have Saturday. But again, I just can't say thank you enough to everyone who stopped by tonight, stopped by all season, going into the future. But gentlemen, we have 78 more games left. Let's go Sabres.